Berbers are the indigenous inhabitants of North Africa who generally call themselves Amazigen or Amazigh, meaning the free people. Berbers inhabit a wide area from Siwa Oasis in Egypt's western desert to the Atlantic coast of Morocco, and from the Mediterranean south to the Sahel in Niger and Burkina Faso. The total number of Berbers is difficult to determine, mainly because of the different ways people can be counted as Berber or not. In Morocco, between 30% and 60% of the population can be counted as Berber, depending on whether or not speaking Berber as a language of the home is part of the identity. If speaking Berber as a first language is considered, then around 30% to 40% of Morocco's people are Berbers. But if other aspects are taken into consideration, such as family name, place of origin, and cultural affinity, then as many as 60% of Moroccans are Berbers. Berbers number at least 10 million, with the largest populations in Algeria and Morocco. The term Berber derives from the Greek word barabaro, which they used to mean those who could not speak Greek. It was borrowed into Latin as barbar, from which the English language takes the word barbarian. The Latin term was also borrowed into Arabic as barbar, and generally was applied to much of North Africa as Barbary by Europeans. Arabic speakers usually refer to Berbers as Shula, which derives from the Arabic for someone who speaks a broken form of Arabic, though recently the more proper Amazigh has been adopted by most North African countries. The Berber language, generally called Tamazight, belongs to the Afro-Asiatic group and seems to have divided from Semitic sometime around 11,000 BC. The origin of the Berbers has been a source of controversy, especially after the emergence of the highly romantic Berber myth movement supported by Europeans and Americans in the early 20th century. The Berber myth originated with the work of the French officer Robert Montange, who was commissioned by the French Governor-General of Morocco, Hubert Loti, to study the Berbers. He sought to find Berber origins in Europe, perhaps related to the Basque. The Berber myth of lost Europeans pushed an agenda to free the Berbers from their occupation and suppression by the Arabs and Islam. Medieval Arab historians and geographers followed Berber genealogies that gave themselves Yemeni origins, claiming to descend from the Himyarites. Berbers sought to place themselves on an equal footing with Arabs by claiming prestigious Arab genealogies. Recent studies by physical and medical anthropologists note that the Y chromosome and DNA place Berbers as sharing common links to African and Middle Eastern peoples. Archaeologists believe that what they call Proto-Berbers inhabited most of the Mediterranean coastal regions of North Africa in the late Paleolithic period and produced the Caspian culture. By the Neolithic period around 7000 BC, Berbers produced some of the rock art found in the Sahara. Evidence is backed up not only by genetic research, but also by representations of nomadic life, tent structures, and clothing that are very similar to those found in ancient Egyptian representations of the Libu and other Berber peoples from historic times. The ancient Egyptians provided a good amount of detail about the Libu or Rebu, Tehenu, and Temehu peoples who lived in the western desert and in eastern Libya. The Algerian archaeologist Malika Hashid argues that the Tuareg are the modern-day descendants of the ancient Garamantes mentioned by Greek and Roman geographers. Some of the Berbers, mainly those in contact with Egypt and Punic Carthage, organized themselves into states. Numidia arose in the 4th century BC in the region close to Carthage and divided into two main lineages. The Berber kings were greatly influenced by Punic culture and took on a number of elements, including worship of the two principal Punic gods, Tingit and Baal Hamon. The Numidian rulers became embroiled in the conflict between Rome and Carthage. The last independent Numidian ruler, King Jugurtha, fell out with Rome, with whom he fought a 7-year war. Jugurtha was eventually betrayed by his cousin, the king of Mauritania, and was taken to Rome for execution. Numidia was allowed to continue to exist, but was broken up into small contesting city-states until the civil war between Julius Caesar and Pompey, when King Juba I tried to use a civil war for his own benefit. Berbers were attracted to both early Shi'ism and Karaji forms of Islam. Both forms of Islam were brought to North Africa by populations from the Middle East, trying to escape persecution by the Umayyads and Abbasids. Along Morocco's Atlantic plain, the Bagwata Berbers developed their own version of Islam following their prophet Salih ibn Tarif, who compiled his own Berber version of a revealed book to rival the Quran. Berber literature is mainly oral, and most of the texts written in Tifinagh or Libyan script are monumental inscriptions. Berbers wrote in Latin or with the arrival of Islam in Arabic. Some Berber language texts in southern Morocco are written using Arabic letters. In general, most Berber literature is in the form of poems that are preserved by bards. These poems are frequently sung, and two major types of dance are associated with them. Sunni orthodoxy of the Maliki school of law was firmly established in North Africa by the Berbers with the rise of the Almoravids, who developed in the Sahara among the pastoral nomadic Sanhaja tribes. By 1056, they had begun their conquest of Morocco, and by 1070, they had consolidated their control over all of Morocco and expanded into Algeria as far as the city of Algiers. The Almoravids were asked by the Muslim rulers of Spain to assist them against the pressures from the King of Castile. In 1086, they responded, and by 1110, all of the Muslim states of Spain were under the Almoravid rule.